All right, good afternoon. Welcome to Virtual Field Trip 1, Road Cuts and Rock Pits. This is a pit where we call the Chip Shot Pit, and it's in the Raging River block. In fact, right down here is the Raging River that runs between, you can see that area over there that's been cut recently. Well, going down into there is the Raging, and we're coming back. We're on the other side of the Raging now, which would be the west side, as the Raging flows right through here. Over there is Rattlesnake Ridge, kind of up that second ridge behind that recent cut. This is kind of at the bottom of 18 before you get to I-90, and it's not the greatest pit, I'll tell you that. We did have a little more success with our last shot in here. Last time we did some rock work in here in that area. This area here, you see it's nice and flat. It looks like, man, it looks like nice basalt. And unfortunately, it's highly weathered, and some of it is even coal. You can see, look, I'm just hitting it with the hammer and it breaks apart. You do get some better material mixed in there, but even still, my hammer can break it down pretty easily. Also, you notice in here, we've got a mixture of these big, large, almost, small car-sized boulders. And those are where you're getting a lot of this other material from. Some of those are, basically old glacial deposits from, if you can imagine, when the Raging River here was prehistoric 10,000 years ago, and the level of the river was probably up here. Definitely the glacier that came in here was definitely up thousands of feet above my head right now. And so you're going to think of those past impacts of the glaciers, and that this is, has been an old river valley for a long time. You can see here some of the material. I mean, here it's just like highly weathered, falls apart. It's got a lot of just weathered carbon as coal, basically. We've even found some chunks of coal in here, and there's a seam of it right there, with some other quartz and interesting things over there. But you can see here at this example of the type of rock, and you see all these striations, these layers, and this is basically thousands and thousands of years of stream sediment. And I'm imagining these rounded rocks in here being some basically old rocks that were pushed around by glaciers. Here's some really dark material here that's practically coal. Basically, you could almost burn this in the right type of fireplace if you had a coal burning fireplace. But you can also see how it flakes off like that. Probably a good place to come and find fossils as well, if that's what you're into. I like fossils. And then look over here, we've got obviously some material that's been influenced by a glacier. This chunk of compacted glacial till in here, and you can see these are all smaller rocks and so forth in here, pebbles even, and just this sand in between, and then the glacier through compression and hydrolysis has basically turned that into a solid piece of rock that we call compacted glacial till. And I don't know if we've talked a lot about that, but that's one of the things you find out and around our area quite a bit. I'm going to see if I can get over to this vein of coal. But again, here's some of this rounded rock. I don't believe those are erratics or anything necessarily. Also, as part of how when they blasted this, because they did blast it, it came apart this way. There's some more of that compacted glacial till up on top of this volcanic. There's these veins. This is just a very messy kind of rock source here, because of it's got kind of both glacial and volcanic processes working on it. But yeah, this stuff in here, really interesting material. I mean, it's coal. It's breaks apart super easily. We did put some of it on the road. Unfortunately, it's black, and it makes the ditches kind of turn black. Not a very good product. You can see here all these rocks here, some pretty large size rocks. Again, this is glacial. This is not volcanic. This is sedimentary. But then some of this other stuff is volcanic, is igneous. And so you just got this hodgepodge here, which doesn't really make for the best rock source, unfortunately. It's cool to look at, I think, and from a geology and kind of a historic perspective of, if you like to go back in time and think about how this area developed, it's super cool. But as far as good pit for rock for forestry or to make gravel roads, not necessarily the best source here, until you get into some of this stuff here, which is better. And this one you can see is metamorphic even. I mean, this is definitely volcanic here, but it suspended these other rocks. This is granite in here with basalt in between. So it wasn't, it's not pure basalt. A lot of times we have what's called these inclusions. And so, that could have come up into this granite and formed around it. It wasn't hot enough to melt the granite. This could also be glacial material. This could be maybe erratic even, material, but it's hard to say. I'm not a geologist. I, by trade, obviously, but this is definitely nice formation here. So that means it's like started out as igneous and then became sedimentary, and then over time became nice rock, which is a form of granite. So anyhow, a lot of interesting, diverse rock formations in here. Again, you can see those boulders over there. Could potentially be erratics, but they could also be part of this hemi-volcanic rock pit that we have here that has several different types of rock formations going on. It's pretty cool. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll move on to the next.